Hey, this is Matt once again. I know it's a bit of a different lighting. Makes it look like there's been a nuclear explosion out there, but couldn't sleep, so I figured I would do a couple reviews. And if you notice, I'm going to try to pump out as many reviews as I can before I move, so that you guys have some content. And like I said, I'm doing a little bit of a marathon on the Bruceploitation films that were made after Bruce Lee passed away, and they wanted to get some more moolah. So there were imitators, there were sequels, all sorts of stuff. Now, this is a film that I have reviewed before, but I wanted to talk about it again since it's in the same realm as a few other films we're going to talk about. But Game of Death 2, which I will say that I said this before, I like more than the first Game of Death. The first Game of Death, of course, Bruce Lee didn't finish, although technically he had about 40 minutes of footage, which you can see on one of the Bruce Lee documentaries. I believe it's called The Warrior's Journey, where it's pretty much part of the finale, including the fight with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And they didn't use all that in Game of Death for some reason, which I think was stupid. I don't know why you would not use as much Bruce Lee footage as you had. Maybe they didn't have it, maybe they decided, I don't know the whole deal. But anyway, the first Game of Death, they try real hard to be Bruce Lee, but you could tell they're like hiding his face. At one time, they even had a fucking picture of Bruce Lee's face on a fucking mirror. Just ridiculous. This one, like the first half of the film, that isn't as bad as that, but it's a bit wonky. But I would say this film is definitely worth a watch for martial arts fans for the second half of the film, because the first half of this movie is Bruce Lee using footage from other films. I think mainly Enter the Dragon, I believe, or maybe some scenes they deleted scenes from Enter the Dragon, and they recreate a story. They use that footage to create a story that Bruce Lee is friends with this guy, and they're getting challenged a lot. And he narrates about how he has been challenged too. And they have this greenhouse fight, which is a well choreographed fight, but when you see the wide shots, it's easily not Bruce Lee, it's someone else's face. And that's what I mean. It kind of takes at least me out of the movie. But the entire Game of Death kind of did that. Here, it's just the first half. So again, the choreography is well done, but you can tell that's not Bruce Lee in the wide shots. You can clearly see his face. There are times they use flashbacks, which is actual footage of Bruce Lee when he was a child, and actual, I think also when he was like 15 years old. Like, so okay, maybe back in 1981, around when this came out, this was the only time you could see that footage in the theater. So people thought, okay, this is a good deal. And so the Bruce Lee character writes a letter to his brother saying, oh, I'm sorry I missed you. He finds out his friend has passed away, sees a stepdaughter of the friend, something to do with this roll of film. Pretty much guys want it. Did really good choreography, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Yuen Wu-ping, who would go on to work on choreography for the Matrix films, among others. I believe he had a hand in the choreography of this. I could be wrong, but I believe that's the case. Which maybe that's why the fight scenes are really good. Even though it's a guy pretending to be Bruce Lee, he's kicking a guy, the guy flies through the door, and nice usage of slow motion. A car's coming at the character, rolls over the car. again, really fast, really quick. Really does feel like people are getting hit the impact. But then there's a after all that happens, he's at the funeral of his friend. There's the coffin with, which I know seems weird. It has a swastika, which automatically makes you think Nazi. But if you look into it, the swastika, there's an actual other meaning for it well before the Nazis. Sadly, they took that and kind of abused the symbol. That's why, if you look up, if you don't believe me, look up swastika. There was an entirely like different meaning before Hitler, the Nazis took it to use it for their own bullshit. So, yeah, it's kind of sad that if you try to use that symbol now, you would be a shit creep. But again, there was another theme to that symbol, the swastika. That's why it's on the coffin in this one scene, because it represents that part. Because I think I remember the first time I saw him, like, was his friend a fucking Nazi? Because I know that symbol was not always meant for that. And so like this weird, crazy scene where a helicopter comes and has this claw. You know those machines that you'd use to try to get a toy out? He uses one of those to grab the coffin and leave, and the Bruce Lee grabs it, is being dragged in the air. He gets shot in the neck, falls to his death, and I guess you could say he does a psycho, where this is our lead guy, and he dies halfway through the film. So I remember the first time I saw this, I'm like, I don't know about this movie. It's a bit iffy. Because this is a DVD I got as a gift. I'm not sure about this. But, like I said before, the second half of this film is really, really good. It's batshit crazy. It's funny, maybe unintentionally. Extremely well done fight sequences and choreography. Because the second half of this film, it's the brother character. Now, this actor, I forget the actor's name, he played Bruce Lee, he stood in for Bruce Lee in Game of Death, and apparently they liked what he did, so he stood in for Bruce Lee in the first half of this film, and then plays the character's brother in the second half. I will say he seemed like a very talented martial artist. And sadly, I looked him up. He didn't do too much movies. This is one of the only films he did, other than another Bruceploitation film called Jackie and like Bruce and Jackie to the Rescue, or Bruce versus Jackie to the Rescue, which had a Bruce Lee imitator, which was him, and a Jackie Chan imitator. But he only did like a handful of films, and he retired from acting like when he was 29, and he passed away like 2011. I think it was stomach hemorrhage. So it's really too bad, because this guy, really talented martial artist, very quick, very fast. There's this one beautiful shot in the third act where a guy has a big crate and he does this kick, and the kick goes right through the crate. And if you watch it closely, you can tell he clocks the guy hard in the face with his foot. It's like, ooh, a beautiful wide shot. But I was talking about the second half of this film. The brother character comes in, who is our star, our actual star, and he wants revenge, to avenge the death of his brother. And Bruce Lee's buddy who died, who we saw at the beginning of the film, his buddy was this other guy who owns this place with lions from Africa. And this bad guy also carries like this little monkey around. And like you have this one scene where he's talking with the guy, they're in a vehicle, and real lions are like on the Jeep and like trying to get in, which seems pretty sketchy. Um, the bad guy, you think it's a bad guy. I think he's an American. He gets challenged by these two, and he's fighting the guys that are tiger style, and he actually bites the guy's fingers at one point. And then our lead, the brother character, stays there, is invited as a guest. And he gets in a fight with a guy with a mask. He takes the mask, but the guy runs away. The American guy, or the brother character, meets up, says, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know." And the American guy is eating raw venison and deer's blood. And you're like, okay. It is. It's like I've seen a lot of these bruceploitation films, that a bit of fun insanity. Fun insanity. And the American tells a story about how there was a pagoda, but it was the Tower of Death, but it was built underground, which I thought was an interesting idea. I think another title for this is the Tower of Death. And you have this full frontal lady, like fucking tits and bush. Thank God for the time period. Seduces our lead character and tries to kill him, but then a fucking lion jumps through. And at first I thought, is this supposed to be a guy in a lion suit? Because it's a guy in a lion suit. But I think it's really supposed to be a lion. I'm like, is this the first furry fight in movie history? Because technically this guy's a furry. This lion. I mean, it's a, a guy in a lion suit. I guess not. I guess you could technically call Cowardly Lion a furry. But I guess maybe this is the first furry fight. So the brother of Bruce Lee's character is fighting a guy in a lion suit that's supposed to be an actual lion. You gotta see it to believe it. It's pretty damn entertaining. And it kills the lady who tried to seduce and kill him, so pussy killed a pussy. And while that's happening, the masked guy returns and stabs the American. He hangs the American and stabs him. And our lead character is like, "What the fuck happened?" He doesn't say that, but it'd be funny if he did. And there's this one guy who's with the American who has one arm. And you find out he's the masked guy. But it's like, wait a minute, the guy with the mask had two arms. Well, apparently, this one-armed guy for some reason hides. He hides that he has an arm. He gets beaten up, and then all of a sudden, he just, I guess he just hid his arm, or just for special occasions gets his second arm out and fights the lead and gets his ass beaten by our lead character. He beats a couple other guys, gets to the secret entrance, takes an elevator down, and then we're in a scenery that's like a Sean Connery James Bond movie, like the end of Goldfinger or something, or You Only Live Twice. It really does feel like it's like a James Bond facility with the way it looks, and these people are dressed up in like silver, almost like spacesuits, and really good choreography, just beating the fuck out of everybody, one after the other after the other. He fights this guy who's a strong man, like a leopard suit. I don't know what the deal is. First there's a guy who's in a lion, but that's supposed to be a lion. Now here's a guy who's wearing, he looks like Kraven the Hunter, like an Asian, if you remember Spider-Man comics, you remember Kraven the Hunter? He looks like an Asian Kraven the Hunter, and he has like a leopard outfit thing. And again, really good fight. Guy has a big box, and the lead kicks through the box into the guy's face and kills him with like a sharpshooter, like a Brett the Hitman Hart sharpshooter. I love it. And then I guess there's this electrified hallway. A guy like jumps out at him, and he moves out of the way, and the guy gets fried. So he does this Mission Impossible shit where he hooks a line on the top and corrals his ass over the electrified hallway. And then he fights a monk. Yet another really good fight. and does like the scissor thing where he jumps and gets his legs on. Like, imagine this is the guy, our lead gets his legs like down and fucking kicks him. And then we find out that the main villain is Bruce's buddy from the beginning, who's not really dead. He faked his death because he's a drug trafficker. A drug trafficker who's also in... Don't put logic into this. And again, a really good fight. Like, there's this one part where he gets on a catwalk and the lead outsmarts him, so he gets on the ledge and sort of moves over to behind him, kicks the bad guy's ass off the catwalk to the ground. Again, really fast, well choreographed, entertaining, and ends with him stabbing the bad guy and the monk, who's not dead. So I guess he didn't really kill him, knocked him out with the sharpshooter. And stabs them both with a sword. And then the bad guy has this coffin. And so our lead kicks the bad guy into the coffin. I'm like, that's the way to end the movie. And I gotta say, man, it's worth a watch. If you are a fan of Game of Death and it didn't bother you, any of the stuff that happens, then it's not going to bother you here, the first half. Because even though it does, the first half does stuff that annoyed me in Game of Death, it's nowhere as bad as having a picture on a fucking mirror of Bruce Lee's face, and that's supposed to be Bruce Lee, like it did in Game of Death. So there's that. And the second half is this bonkers lions, a lion furry man, a furry fight. It's supposed to be a lion, it's furry fight, fighting a bunch of guys in this James Bond, Sean Connery locale, and very quick and extremely well done fight sequences and choreography. It's definitely worth a look. If you're a martial arts fan, if you're if you're a Bruce Lee fan, sure. Technically he's in it. But yeah, it's a pretty entertaining film. And I know I'm harping on this, but the fights are really, really good, especially in the second half of the film. And especially at the third act. Because he's like, it's like a video game at the end. You know, he's fighting all of the regular folks, kicking their ass, and then you have the sub bosses like the Leopard Man and the Craven the Hunter type guy and the monk, and then you have the main boss. Just call it a double dragon or final fight. But yeah, I definitely think it's worth a look. I think you can find it here on YouTube for free, to be honest. If not, I'm sure if it's not, maybe this one's not on YouTube for free, but I think like on Daily Motion or one of those websites, they'll be on there. If you type in on Google Game of Death 2 and type in, you'll find it. I'm sure you can find it somewhere on the internet. I do have the DVD, but I have it packed away, so I can't show it. But that's how I saw it. It was on online. I forget where. But yeah. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.